As mentioned, we're going to go with a small demo or an introduction on this course, Certified Ethical Hacking version 12. Now, this is the current version of the running course, and again, the latest one as well. And every year, the version gets updated and newer concepts are added, and the older ones are removed or redacted. Now, to get started with, let's get with the definitions of ethical hacking and hacking, because a lot of students have misconception that both are the same, one and the same term. Okay, but no, they're poles apart. Let's define those. So when you talk about hacking, guys, initially, this is a procedure where, again, a person tries to get access to your information systems without your permission and without your knowledge. Okay. So even if it be an organization as well, a hacker tries to get access to the information systems in that organization without the permission or knowledge of the organization. And once he gets access to these devices, he can perform all sorts of operations. He can steal the data, he can destroy the data, he can sell your data to other people on the internet, or even just basically have remote access and view it whenever he wants to. Okay. And all of this is just for his own benefit or just for fun. Okay. Now, definitely, this is unethical and he's accessing your data without your permission here. Okay. Now, definitely, this is a criminal behavior as well. But on the other hand, when you talk about ethical hacking, this is the procedure of trying to find vulnerabilities. This term called vulnerability is something that will keep coming across multiple times. Oh, was someone asking a question? Om Prakash. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, any questions, guys? Oh, cool. Perfect. Right. So again, just keep the mics muted, guys, just so that there's no background disturbance. And if you have any question also, please do feel free to unmute and you can interrupt me at any certain point and ask your questions. Okay. Right, moving forward. So as mentioned, when you talk about ethical hacking, on the other hand, this is the procedure where ethical hackers find vulnerabilities or loopholes. Now, this term called vulnerability is something we'll keep coming across a lot of times. Okay. To define it, it's a weakness, it's a flaw, a loophole in the information system. And hackers take advantage of these same loopholes to attack your systems and get access to them. So your job as an ethical hacker is to find these loopholes or vulnerabilities in the systems with permission of the organization and with following the policies and rules set by the organization. Okay, and this is done in order to report them back. So once an ethical hacker finds a loophole, he definitely reports it back to the organization so that they can apply the necessary security updates, or commonly known as patches. Okay, and once these patches are applied, you're preventing any other hacker or any other cyber criminal from taking advantage of those vulnerabilities and causing any further harm. So your job as an ethical hacker is to find these loopholes, report it back, and get them patched so that no other hacker can cause any further cyber threats to the organization. As simple as that. Okay. Now, depending on these two categories of hacking and ethical hacking, we can have, we can have different types of hackers now. So there's someone known as a white hat hacker, there's someone known as a gray hat hacker, and then there's someone known as a black hat hacker as well. Okay. Firstly, when you talk about your black hat hackers, these are someone who perform hacking for their own benefit or just for fun without asking for consent. Okay, so they're performing hacking basically, and they can also be commonly known as cyber criminals. On the other end of the spectrum, we have someone known as a white hat hacker. White hat hackers are people who abide by the laws and policies of the organization. They work hand in hand with the organization to secure the infrastructure from these hackers. And therefore, they're also commonly known as ethical hackers or penetration testers. And in between, there's a third category, quite a mysterious category called gray hat hackers. Now, these are people who have both the qualities of black hat as well as a white hat hacker. Like a black hat hacker, they don't ask for permission first. They don't take the permission to find the loopholes or the vulnerabilities. But once they do find a loophole, they don't take advantage out of it. They report it back to the company. But definitely there's a minor catch here. They don't do it for free. They do it in return for a bounty. A bounty is like a financial reward that they expect in return to report the vulnerability. So therefore, they're working both offensively and defensively at various stages, hence the name grey hat hackers. Okay. And they can also be commonly known as bug bounty hunters. They hunt for bugs in the systems in return for a bounty. Okay. Now, no matter what category of a hacker you take, whether it be a black hat hacker, a gray hat hacker, or a white hat hacker as well, no matter what the category be, they perform hacking or ethical hacking in a certain procedure. And that procedure is called as cyber kill chain. And our course is going to follow the same exact procedure. Some companies also refer to it as the hacking cycle. So it's one and the same thing. Okay. To define it, A hacking cycle or the cyber kill chain is the procedure that hackers follow in order to perform a successful cyber attack. Okay. And the same knowledge of this procedure also allows cyber security professionals to understand these various sorts of attacks, to detect them at an early stage, and to prevent these cyber threats in the future as well. Okay, so the procedure to defend an attack is pretty similar, not much difference. Okay, and that procedure is called as cyber kill chain. Okay. Procedure that hackers follow to perform a successful attack. And the same knowledge of this procedure is also utilized by cyber security professionals to understand these attacks and prevent them at an early stage. Okay. Now, this procedure contains 5 important steps, and our whole course is going to revolve around these 5 steps itself. The first step is called as information gathering. Second step is called as scanning. Third step is called as gaining access. Fourth step is called as maintaining access. And the last step is called as reporting or clearing traces. If you carefully observe here, only in the last step, I've mentioned 2 different possibilities. Okay, reporting or clearing traces. The reason being, no matter what category of a hacker you are, first 4 steps are exactly similar. There is no change in the procedure in the first 4 steps. What varies or what changes is only the end result. If you are a white hat hacker or a gray hat hacker, you perform reporting, or you report the vulnerabilities back to the organization. On the other hand, if you're a black hat hacker, you don't report anything, obviously. You don't want to get caught. So what you do is you try to remove the evidences, you delete the footprints and the logs, and that in simple terms is clearing traces. So then you cannot be found later on. Okay. So let's talk about each of these phases now one by one and give you a brief understanding on what the course is about. But before that, any questions up to this point? Anyone? Om Prakash, Madla, Srinivas Rao.
We are clear, sir.
I'll come to that, Om Prakash. I'm going to explain what information gathering is and what type of information do we gather in that phase in a minute. So I'll explain all of these steps one by one. Okay. But up to this point, any questions also? Uh, yeah. Murla, you were saying something?
No, no, sir. We are okay.
So good
Uh,
morning, sir. Sorry to interrupt you.
hey,
Uh,
Faisal,
so
good
the
morning.
the same session was conducted yesterday, and I
Right,
was part
Faisal.
of that session.
Oh, you weren't available yesterday, is what you're saying?
I had attended this session, sir. So I wanted to ask when will the actual classes start?
I was supposed to start them today itself, Faisal, but if you notice, none of the students from yesterday joined. So I thought since they are new students, I take up.
Okay. So,
Excuse
so
me.
will we get a link or something when the new session starts?
We'll be starting it from tomorrow, Faisal, since there's new students today. I was planning on taking the yesterday session itself. So tomorrow onwards, with the same link, we'll be starting the new session actually, without
Okay, sir.
fail. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Faisal. Right. Moving forward, let's talk about each of these steps now one by one. So as mentioned, the first step is called as information gathering. Now, some companies also refer to it as reconnaissance of footprinting. So it's one and the same terminology, right? Okay. Now, the main objective of this phase is where the hackers or the ethical hackers try to gather as much information or as much data as possible about the target organization. And an important point to note here is all of this information is obtained passively. What I mean by passively is you do not contact the target organization in any way. The organization has no clue that someone is trying to get information about them. And all this data is obtained from third party sources, from the internet itself. But the main question that arises here is what kind of information are you trying to gather? And that information is as follows. So, as a hacker or an ethical hacker, when you perform a pen test for an organization or when you perform an attack as well, these are all the pieces of information that you need to have your hands on. Okay. So, firstly, you need the IP addresses or the network blocks of the organization. Now, basically, an IP address is the identity for every server on the internet, the name or the identity for every device on the internet. So you need those IP addresses or the group of IPs, also commonly known as a network block for the organization. You need the who's records telling you who's hosting the website for the DNS records. Again, contains the information from the DNS server. I'll explain what a DNS server in the upcoming sessions, guys. Don't worry. Okay. But basically, your DNS servers contains domains and subdomain information and the correlating IP addresses as well. Then the operating system information. What OS are they running on? Are they running their servers on Microsoft servers or Linux servers? then employee details, contact numbers of the employees, email addresses of the employees, and the usernames and passwords of the employees if they were leaked on the internet in any data breaches. Okay. Now, believe it or not, all of this information is actually available on the internet. The only thing is you need to know what those gold mines are from where you can retrieve this data. Okay. So don't worry, in the upcoming sessions, we'll practically discuss each of these informations and I'll also show you how to get them from the internet. Okay. But once all of this information has been obtained, this is now utilized in the next phase, which is called as scanning. So scanning is also commonly known as enumeration. So one and the same thing. And the main objective here is to get some extra data, but by active and aggressive methods. So earlier we got the data passively, if you remember, passively in the sense without making any contact with the organization. Here we get some extra data actively, actively in the sense whatever IPs you obtained in the earlier phase, whatever email addresses you obtained, whatever domains or subdomains you obtained, you directly send attacks on those IPs and try to retrieve some data. And whatever data you retrieve can be categorized in three parts. So there's something called as network scanning, port scanning, and vulnerability scanning. In network scanning, we try to figure out in that network, along with the device of the existing IP, what all other devices exist. So getting a network topology of their entire network. So how many routers do they have? How many firewalls do they have? How many client operating system devices do they have? What sorts of servers are they using? Are they using DHCP servers, DNS servers, FTP servers, web servers, mail servers? So trying to get a network topology and understanding what all devices exist in their network is called as network scanning, getting a picture of their entire network. Now, once you know what devices exist, on those devices, you perform something called port scanning. So on each of those devices, you try to figure out what ports are open, what services are running, and what versions of the services or applications are running. Okay. And once you know what applications or services the company is using, on those you start finding vulnerabilities. That is called as vulnerabilities. Yeah. Uh-huh. No, basically your device, guys, has two sorts of ports. There's something called as physical ports, and then there's something called as logical ports. Physical ports are the ones that you can actually notice on your device, the USB port, the HDMI port, the VGI port, all those. But there's something else also called as logical ports as well. And every system has these logical ports. They're embedded in the operating system itself. And again, to be frank, there's 65,535 ports in any device. 65,000 535 logical ports. Okay. So those are all the logical ports that are present on the operating system. And on these ports only multiple services run. Okay. Your HTTP service, your mail DNS service, your DHCP service. So whatever softwares or whatever applications you use on your device, they need to send data and receive data. So that sending and receiving of data is done on these ports itself. Okay. So they're the logical entry and exit points for data on your system. Okay. Is that clear? Om Prakash. So we perform port scanning and try to figure out what ports, what such logical ports are open. And on those ports, what sorts of services are running, what type of applications or services you are running on your system. Okay, is that clear? If I show you a glimpse of this, basically, 1 second, just give me a minute. Compressed C ports, yeah. This is an application to figure out what sorts of ports are active on my device. So if you notice, this is a tool which gives you information on what ports are open on my device. So as you can see, these are all the different sorts of applications I'm running in my system. And on my system, these are the ports being used. So as you can see, they're ranging from the number 0 to 65535. Okay. So each of these ports is acting as an entry point or an exit point for data that is being received or sent on these applications. Okay. Exactly, Om Prakash. Right. Others, any questions as well? Faisal, Murla, Srinivas. Hmm. Okay, assuming no questions, let's move forward. So as mentioned, so once you get to know what systems are active, on those systems, what ports are open, and on those ports, what services are running, then finally you perform vulnerability scanning. Vulnerability scanning is where on each of those services, now you check if there's any loopholes, if there's any vulnerabilities to attack on. Okay. And for this, we'll be using a very important tool called Tenable Nessus. If you go to your browser, you can search for this tool, Tenable Nessus, a very expensive tool actually used in organizations, okay, to perform automated vulnerability scan. So this tool is capable of basically telling you in your entire network which device contains what sorts of vulnerabilities, what loopholes might exist, or what misconfigurations might exist on each device. Okay. And this is quite an expensive tool, as mentioned. It's around $7,000 for 1 year, that not even for lifetime. So every year the company needs to pay $7,000 to run this tool. Okay. But again, it's worth the price. Okay, and the companies are willing to pay that amount for it. Okay. But don't worry, we don't need to purchase any sort of a tool. Luckily, to learn on it, there's a trial version. The company itself has provided a trial version to test the tool and check if it is suitable for your organization or not. And we'll be working on this trial version to make you understand how this tool works and how do you use it efficiently in an organization. Again, I'm showing all this just to give you a glimpse on what tools we'll be working on in the upcoming sessions, guys. Okay, so it's a very real-time based course with hands-on practice and hands-on environment. Okay, and we'll be working on the same tools that I used in today's world in real time. Okay, just give me 1 minute, guys. Just give me 1 second. There's some sort of background disturbance from my end. Let me check that. Apologies about that. Coming back to this. Now, as mentioned, guys, once you have all the information, so once you know what devices are existing, what services are running on them, and what vulnerabilities exist on them as well, the last thing to do is nothing but attack on them. And that is called as gaining access phase. So the phase where the real hacking occurs. So attackers use the vulnerabilities found in the earlier phases to gain access to the entire system or any sort of application or the entire network as well. Okay, so in this phase, we'll try to learn how to attack each and every endpoint. So one of the most important concepts in the course, I would say, the largest of modules as well. And we'll learn how to attack each and every endpoint. Excuse me. Sorry, a bit sick today. But yeah, coming back to this. So the first module that we cover in the gaining access part is the system hacking module, where in system hacking, we try to understand how do you crack or bypass the password of any Windows operating system. So it doesn't matter what version it be, from Windows 7 up to your latest one, Windows 11 as well. We'll be learning how do you crack or bypass the password of any Windows operating system. Okay. Why do we need this now? So sometimes if you face a cyber threat attack and if the hacker locks you out of your own device, you need to know how to get access to your data back again. So in such a scenario, if the hacker changes your password, you need to know how to crack that password. Or if it's too tough to crack, how do you bypass it and get access to your internal data again? Okay. After that comes malware attacks. 90% of your cyber threats occur through malwares itself, malicious softwares. And there's tons and tons of categories of malwares, guys. Viruses, worms, trojans, spyware, rootkits, whatnot. We'll practically learn how to create each of these malwares, how to defend our system from these malwares, and how to detect them as well if they are pre-installed in our system without our knowledge. Okay. Then there's a bonus concept called malwares advanced. Now, this is only a bonus concept, guys, not a part of the course actually, where we learn how do hackers create malwares in Python programming. So in our course, please note, there is no requirement for any programming language. This is just a bonus concept where I'll be sharing the resources where you can learn how to write your own malwares with Python if you have knowledge on Python. Okay. Then comes network penetration testing, where we learn what are the commonly known network attacks. So attacks like sniffing attack, man in the middle attack, denial of service attack, hacking Wi-Fi routers, and cracking the password for Wi-Fi routers. All these fall under network pen testing. So using these attacks, hackers can capture your data, your usernames and passwords in a network. They can shut down remote servers by sending huge amounts of traffic, or crack the Wi-Fi passwords and access your network without your permission. All that falls under network pen testing. Oh, sorry. Okay. Then comes social engineering, where we learn how do hackers create fake websites, fake phishing sites. Okay, so whether it be a bank login page, whether it be a social media page, whether it be an office VPN login page, or whatever it's, hackers can create an exact replica of any web page, and then they send that to the victim and try to fool them into giving out the credentials. So those are called as social engineering attacks. So we'll practically learn how these are performed and how do you distinguish between a genuine website and a fake website as well. What are the key factors to look for when you want to distinguish between the two different types of sites. Okay. Then comes hacking web servers, where we learn how do you check for vulnerabilities or misconfigurations on the web server on a backend. How do you check for the services running on it? How do you check for outdated versions of services running on it? And how do you check if it's configured properly to prevent all sorts of cyber threats? Not only on the backend, we also test the front end of a website. So for vulnerabilities on the web page or the web application, we have vulnerabilities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, broken authentication, file upload vulnerability, whatnot. Now, I know these might sound very technical and very gibberish to you right now, but these are all sorts of attacks, guys. Using these attacks, hackers can get access to your database. They can get access to your internal data stored or internal files stored on the web server. They can execute malicious scripts on the web page, or log in with your cookies without your permission, or upload malicious files to servers and shut down the server as well. So all these sorts of things are web application attacks. Finally comes evading IPS, IDS, and firewalls. So your organizations might have security measures, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, and firewalls. And we learn how do you check for misconfigurations on them? How do you check for loopholes on them? And how do you bypass them if they contain any loopholes? Then finally comes vulnerability assessment, where we work on a tool called Metasploit framework, a very important tool again. You can go to your browser and search for it, Metasploit framework. This is a penetration testing software. So whatever vulnerabilities are found in the Nessus tool here, this generates a report with that. And with that report, you try to attack on each vulnerability. So for attacking or performing the penetration test, you need this tool called Metasploit framework. It comes with all the necessary softwares to attack on every vulnerability that is shown in Nessus here. Okay. Moving forward, finally, you have hacking mobile phones, where we learn how to test the security of an Android phone. So again, as mentioned, we learn how to find loopholes in as small as a device from a phone to as big as a web server or a database as well. Okay, that's the job of a penetration tester, finding loopholes in each and every endpoint and securing your system from those loopholes. Okay, so we talk about system hacking, network hacking, Wi-Fi hacking, web server hacking, web application hacking, firewall hacking, mobile phone hacking, all sorts of devices. Okay. And once all of these are done, then you have two small modules left out, maintaining access and reporting or clearing cases. The smallest of all, I would say. So where in maintaining access, we learn, once I've got a connection to your system, how do I maintain that connection? So even if you restart your device, I should still be connected to you. That is called as maintaining access. Hackers try to retain the ownership of the target system after attacking the device. Okay. And finally, you have reporting or clearing traces, where as an ethical hacker or a gray hat hacker, you generate a report for the organization, you elaborate all the loopholes, okay, and provide solutions as well to remove the vulnerabilities. On the other hand, as a black hat hacker, you won't report anything, obviously. You try to remove all the footprints generated. You delete all the log files, you erase the evidence of your actions, and thereby stay anonymous or hide your identity and stay untraceable. That is called as clearing traces. So the entire course, guys, for you is going to run in two simple tracks. One, how do you perform these attacks as a non-ethical hacker or basically a cyber criminal? And secondly, how do you defend against those attacks as a cyber security professional? Okay. So this is also commonly known as red team hacking and blue team hacking. Red team is where you offensively attack the systems, and blue team is where you defend the systems from these ones who attack. Okay. So the entire course is for a duration of 35 days, guys. When we have classes at the same time again, 9 a.m. itself. Okay. And again, as mentioned, every single class will be recorded. You'll be getting these presentation slides. You'll be getting the notes as well, okay, and the extra material as we progress with the sessions. Okay. And yeah, I'll also be providing my personal number. So if you get stuck somewhere doing any practical also, you can contact me on my number directly, guys. Okay. So that's a brief overview on what the course is about. And if you have any questions also, you can let me know now.
Hi, Mohammed. Good morning.
Oh, 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry. So there, I'm conducting the meeting on two different applications, one on GoTo and one on Zoom. So your voices are getting overlapped. But Morna, I'm going to come to you in a minute. Okay. So Om
Yeah.
Prakash, since you asked me about the labs, we will be having a separate class called Lab Setup Installation itself. So we'll practically install a lab on our own device itself. So there's a software called VMware. This is a virtualization software, and this allows you to run multiple operating systems on one singular device. So as you can see, these are all the various operating systems I have. One important operating system is this Kali Linux, okay, where we practically learn how to perform the installation of this. Okay, and this is quite important for performing all sorts of attacks. So this contains all the tools required for your penetration testing. So we'll learn how to install this, we'll learn how to install the other target operating systems and attack different sorts of OSs or different targets. Okay, so we will have a lab setup installation on our own device itself. Is that clear, Om Prakash? Yeah, other attackers and other victim systems. I'll be sharing those as well. Don't worry. As we progress with our sessions, I'm going to show you how to have a practical hands-on lab. And yeah, it will be there on your own local system. You don't need to go to any website and anything. It's going to be 24/7 accessible on your own device itself. Okay. Don't worry, we'll learn that, Om Prakash. As we progress with our sessions, we'll learn all those sorts of topics. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Murla, you were saying you had a question.
Yeah. Hi, Mohammed. Good morning. Actually, I worked on a Hadoop admin for past last three around 4 years. Okay. So
Oh, okay.
currently, I have no projects. I released it from also from a different company. Okay.
Okay.
So
Sorry to hear.
actually, I'm looking for the same related because admin related means it will be same like what are the ports you are saying DSS networks. Okay. So
Uh-huh.
these things are similar to me the cyber security. So I looked on last past 8 months onwards. I'm looking these course, but I did not get chance any course. Okay, so I see recently in DURGASOFT. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, okay. I have one question because you know Hadoop admin, right? Currently, there is a no projects. All are migrated to some cloud. Okay, so
Right.
that reason I miss some things. Okay, so so that way I am future plan. This is okay for future.
Definitely, Murla. Again, this is an on-demand, at the moment in-demand domain actually. So again, even if you go to any
Mm-hmm.
job portal website as well, whether you Indeed or
Mm-hmm.
Naukri or whatever it is in India, based in India itself, there's tons and tons of jobs on cybersecurity. The lack is where you don't have proper professionals in it, where they have practical
Mm-hmm.
knowledge on the topics. Okay, so even if I show
Mm-hmm.
you this practically as well, if I go to my
Mm-hmm.
browser, there's a website specifically called jobs.null.co.in. This is a website specifically for Indian cyber security jobs. Okay, so this is created by a community called the Null community. Again, this is a worldwide community for cyber security circle, and this is a website created specifically for India for jobs in cyber security. So these are all the domains in cyber security, as you can see. And after this course is done, you can actually go into VAPT or you can go into SOC and SIM, or you can also go into pen testing job roles as well. Okay, so even if you click on freshers tab, just freshers itself, you can see these are all the job roles for freshers. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Again, this keeps getting updated every week again, every week or every 10 days or so. And you can see these are all the job roles you can apply for. IoT pen tester, security consultant, SOC analyst level 1 or level 2. Okay. Ethical hacker, full stack developing security. So all these are cybersecurity related jobs for freshers itself. And you can also apply in other domains also. VAPT also, vulnerability assessment and pen testing. Security analyst, VAPT pen tester, security analyst as a cybersecurity consultant. So there's tons and tons of jobs, I would say. Okay, but the thing is, as mentioned, there's competition definitely. Since this is an in-demand field, there's a lot of competition as well. But the one who has proper skill, the one who has practical hands-on knowledge on all of these things, is the one who's
Okay.
going to secure the job. So again, that is my responsibility to teach you all those things practically. Okay, but after that, how well you practice on it is your responsibility. So
Yeah. Mm.
right. So yeah, there's no, again, I would say when you're joining this domain, there's no disadvantages of any sort. matlab. But again, as mentioned, quite competitive field. And again, you need to be skilled. This is a field which is ever evolving. Every single day, new concepts are released. So you have to be up to date with that. Again, you have to have practical knowledge.
Okay.
That's it.
So you were saying these vulnerability things, okay? So for
Uh,
example, we are working some organization, okay, X organization, okay. So we can find out the vulnerabilities only that organization, or we can support it to multiple,
you
other
can definitely. That's what. If you remember,
organizations.
there was something called as a gray hat hacker. So that guy performs pen testing for all sorts of organizations online. So you have something
Oh,
called bug bounty websites. So if you go to your browser, if you search for this website called Bugcrowd, this is a bug bounty platform where companies themselves list out their websites for loopholes. So if I click on the first link here, if I click on engagements here, you can see these are some popular companies. Okay. Motorola, Cole, Cash App, Infinite Athlete, Ibota. So these are all companies actually. The other day I also saw Indian companies. I saw NASA, I saw Tesla, Netflix,
okay,
whatnot. Okay, so basically, and the companies are willing to pay certain amount of money for people who are finding vulnerabilities and reporting it back. Okay, so these are called as public bug bounty programs. Anyone can
okay.
access this page, anyone can find vulnerabilities, anyone can report. And once you report them, again, if the vulnerability is verified and if it is truly, again, a cyber threat, the company is going to pay you an amount of money. So it doesn't mean that you're limited to only one organization. You can perform
Mm-hmm.
online freelancing called bug bounty as well with the scopes.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
okay.
so that's
Because
it.
I see these vulnerabilities last December 2021. Okay, so we
Right.
can find out some, yeah, yeah, in my project also. Okay, so okay, Mohammed, you are continuing same time or you are changing
No,
timings
no,
also?
it's going to be same morning slot itself. But yeah, just in
Mhm.
case if there are
You are
any,
basically India,
I'm in India itself. I stay in
okay,
Vishakhapatnam.
Visakhapatnam. Okay, okay. Oh, you know
Right.
Telugu, right? No, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
quite fluent in Telugu as well. Definitely.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Prakash, any questions on your? Sure. Uh-huh. Right. Oh my God. Right. Definitely. Definitely, Prakash. Right. Sure. So that is one true point. There are no, as mentioned, there's no deficit in the jobs in cybersecurity that I can say. But yeah, there is a deficit in the lack in the or there's a lack in the professionals actually who are actually skilled in this domain. So there's a lot of institutes who are teaching things practically. There's a lot of universities teaching things theoretically. Okay. So just with theory knowledge, you cannot survive in this domain. So you need practical hands-on knowledge for this. So that's an important point. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're placing the requirements as of for experienced people because again they want people who are right. So, but again, don't worry. With whatever experience they're requesting for, we'll be learning all that those things practically. So nothing to worry there. Sure. So yeah, that's it, Morla. Nothing further today. That's it, Om Prakash. As with nothing further for the session today. You can join back tomorrow at the same time, guys, where we talk about the first topic, which is networking fundamentals. Quite important to know for cybersecurity. How do devices communicate with each other? What are IP addresses? What are the categories of IP addresses? Okay. What is a DNS server? What is a DHCP server? We'll talk about all those in the upcoming sessions in networking fundamentals. Okay. So please do join the session tomorrow at the same time without fail. Okay. Sure. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.